Hi, I'm Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. I want to welcome you to this webinar. We're going to be talking today about fatherhood through the ages, and we're doing that thanks to the support of Blue Shield of California's BlueSky initiative. This webinar is part of a series directed at parents and caregivers, and we hope you get a little something out of it. To help guarantee that you're going to do that, I've got one of my best buddies. He's one of our trusted clinical advisors here at Brother Be Well. His name is Dr. Carlos Martinez. He's an associate marriage and family therapist with HearYou.org. What up, Dr. C?
Mike, how's it going? Happy day of the week. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
It's really good to have you here. And I know you're a dad, I'm a dad, so looking forward to talking about this topic with you. You ready to get into it?
I'm ready. Great conversations. Thank you.
Let's just open this puppy up right now and put this conversation into a little bit of a historical context. Fatherhood, I would think, has changed quite a lot. Well in the decades prior to my life, but certainly in my lifetime, fatherhood has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of generational trauma that communities of color, African Americans don't have a license on that, but communities of color have been facing a lot of generational trauma that I would think impact our ability to be fathers. What are your thoughts about that? What are some of those sources of trauma that you can think of? And in general, is it harder for us men of color to be parents today?
Yeah, obviously generational with me being with my Hispanic Latino culture. Historically, there's a lot of alcoholism, right? It's easier to drink your pain away as an adult male than to sit here and talk about it. And when my dad was growing up in the 50s and 60s, there wasn't a lot of talk about therapy. There wasn't even a lot of medication to take, so he self-medicated. And we learn how to be parents, generally speaking, by our own parents. So the generation, the learning just goes on from there, and it can just perpetuate itself. It's just a cycle, right? And somebody along those lines has to make that conscious decision to break that cycle.
It's funny that you mentioned those earlier generations, Dr. Carlos. We did a session just a few days ago on forgiveness. And when I think about fatherhood, I think about the amount of time that I kind of wouldn't forgive my dad for some of the perceived shortcomings.
Yeah.
And I had to learn through therapy and getting a little older myself that he came up in a different time when fatherhood meant something different than maybe what I needed in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I think all of us carry that stuff with us. Yes.
I remember that one, forgiveness. I was there, and that was a good one. That was therapeutic for me, and it was very enlightening to hear everybody else talk because it made me realize I wasn't alone. But yeah, things have changed, yet they're kind of the same in a sense, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there are some really great fathers in the 50s and 60s. But there are also some bad fathers. And just like right now, right? There's a lot of great fathers right now, but there's also some fathers who need some, I shouldn't say bad, I should say they need some extra love, support, and education.
Yeah. And I've gotten to the point where my father was one of those great fathers. He was great for his day. And he you know, I let him off the hook a long time ago, but it just couldn't help but think of him in the way that you just framed that. What's the general state, Dr. C, on fatherhood today for fathers of color? What might you say is the number one challenge for fathers of color?
I would say the number one challenge would be getting with the modern times, if that makes sense, right? It's about the culture shift, the societal shift of being a father. A father just isn't the person who works 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they let the nurturing mother handle the home life. It gets a lot more complex when you have mixed relationships. You have a stepfather, you have a father or stepmother, stepfather, or even think about same-sex relationships as well too, right? You have two male figures at home. It complicates it, but at the end, all the child is going to know is that whatever they have going on at home is normal. So that's good and that's bad, right? With negative things that are going on.
Yeah, I should have covered this up front, Dr. Carlos. In the spirit of full disclosure, I'm a father myself, so I don't have to beat up on my dad. I'm sure my kids might have some critical thoughts to share about me as a dad. I'm
Uh,
a father too. You care to tell us about your own status as a father?
yeah. I'm a dad of two. I have a 13-year-old and I have a 9-year-old. As I say, they're going on 21 and 21. Our oldest, he's biologically not ours, so he has his share of biological issues with his primary caregivers. He's in a mixed situation because he has me, and then he also has extended family who we've all worked together to raise him. And then my 9-year-old, she's got me, she's got her grandfather who she calls him Papa. So all these father figures are around. Um, and it makes it interesting, right? Every day is a surprise with the kids. Some days are fantastic, and some days it's kind of like, oh, well, let's see how we get through this day or weekend or what have you.
You just reminded me. I remember when my oldest was born. They're both adults now. My oldest was born, and she had been home for maybe 2 days. She's crying through the night, and I was very young myself, 21. I did the best I could, but she wanted mom,
Yeah,
and mom woke up and took care of her. And my 21-year-old self said, "Wow, so how long is that going to last? About 2 weeks?" And my wife at the time, she said, "Well, 18 years if we're lucky." And that, I still remember that quote in the middle of the night. I
yeah,
went, "Wow, I've signed on for the long haul."
yeah,
And you brought up something really interesting, Dr. C, that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Fatherhood means a lot of different things. It can mean friends of the family, extended family, the neighbor across the street. I had a father figure in Mr. Jones across the street from me growing up.
right,
He was every bit the father to me that my dad was, and corrected me as he needed to, and loved me when he needed to. And so
yeah,
fatherhood can mean you can be a father even across genders. There are women that play that fatherhood role
yes.
needed in a family. So just wanted to make that point. Let's talk about a little bit more some of the changes that have occurred. We touched on them
Mhm.
earlier, but decades ago, a father's role was to bring home the bacon, so to speak. So the father went out and worked. If he did that 8, 10, 12, 15 hours a day,
Yeah,
interaction with the children really wasn't part of his role. That father didn't sign up for that, wasn't expected to do it, and wasn't viewed negatively when
right.
they didn't do that because their role was something different. And you're nodding. I'm glad I got that right. Can you walk us through some of those changes over the decade that have occurred to land us where we're at today?
Well, right. So stereotypically, it was, like we mentioned earlier, the dad goes, he works a laborious job, or laborious is the word I'm going to go for, right? Job where he's toiling away, spending all his energy in the manual labor, generally speaking, and then he comes home and physically he's done, emotionally and mentally he's done, and then he has to come home to a house where the kids want his attention, the spouse wants his attention, and he's got nothing left to give. So historically, culturally, things are starting to change. I don't want to sit here and say that it's completely there yet, but there's those societal roles are changing. There's a lot more dads now that are working from home. I know a few people in my social network where the dads are homeschooling their kids. The spouse is the one who is the breadwinner, bringing home the bacon. The dads, they have some sort of part-time job going, but they work it out, right? The one spouse, in one particular case, the wife, she's got no problem working full time and working hours upon hours, and the dad loves being home with the kids. He's like, this is my calling. Homeschool my kids. I got no problem doing laundry. I got no problem taking them on field trips. It's better, and it works for him. But society norms, perception on parenting, fatherhood is shifting. Different and more of a shift than where it was 30, 40 years ago when I was growing up in the very early 80s.
Yeah. And do you think, Dr. C, when I see younger parents out, I'm always, my heart kind of gets a little warm when I see the roles sort of so quickly shift and change. So I remember when I was a kid, mom was pushing the carriage and dad was smoking a cigarette. And now I see,
Yeah,
if mom's got a kid and she's something has drawn her attention, the father will just take the kid from and take care of the child rearing while mom does something else.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
really
yeah.
lets me know that it's really kind of those changes are seeping into the culture. They've settled and they're kind of here to stay. And this isn't something that people are being kind of shoehorned into doing when they might not be really good at it. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, 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 it does. In statistically speaking in research, Generally, fathers are, I don't want to use the word better, but more adept at being a father if they have kids a little later in life, right? There's life experience. Maybe there's a stable career going, or whatever the case may be, right? So that they have a little bit more maturity and overall view of life to rear a child, as opposed to someone who is at the age of 18, younger than 18, or like you, Michael, right? You were 21, and life's a mess. Um, but real quick personal story. I've got a family member of mine, 19 years old, when he had his kid. He's 21 right now, and I saw them over the weekend, and I was so impressed at the way he was handling his son. He had no issues getting in there and changing diapers. He's holding, he's talking, socializing. I'm sitting going, I don't even know if that would have been me
Wow.
when I was his age, right? But just to show that shift of maturity, getting thrown into the fire and doing the best you can. It's really, really fascinating to see different dynamics going on with different people.
Yeah. Wow. You're taking me back. I could start telling personal stories of my own, but we'd be here for 3 hours, Dr. C. Let me ask you this question. Children often, I think, my experience has been that they learn as much from what you do as they do from what you say. And so
Yeah,
parenting, I realized really early on that I couldn't, what my dad used to call it, couldn't talk out of both sides of my mouth and tell my kids one thing. If they saw dad doing something else, it was just going to go south really quickly.
yeah,
Can you talk about a little bit, and we're going to take a look at a video, and then when we come out of that, and you're a marriage and family therapist. So
right.
my first question, even before we see this video, have you worked with families, parental units, groups that have had problems with parenting to kind of help them become better parents?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Working with families, working with couples, that's my bread and butter, right?
Perfect.
It's therapeutic for them, therapeutic for me. We're all learning, but I mean, there are a lot of social theories, psychological theories to back things. I'm big on family systems, family dynamic systems. I'm not going to get too much into the nerdy weeds about it, right? But basically, a family is a unit, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. And that can go into other different types of workplace relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
But if the parental figures is already weakened by generational trauma, substance, just regular life stress, the kids are going to suffer in a way, and they're going to pick up the things that we say and the things that we do.
Yeah.
Some of it can be very endearing, like, oh well, she just said something that I said, and she's only 3, doesn't even know what, the kid doesn't even know it. It's so funny, it's so hilarious. But on the backside, how many stories have you heard of kids getting called out in preschool by the teachers? We don't use those bad words here. Let's say something else, right? So it's all those little things, but that's where it starts from when we're kids, right? Building the foundation, positive influences, correcting behavior, a more effective way to correct behaviors and things like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I appreciate that perspective, Dr. C. Let's take a look at this video, if you don't mind. We're going to take just a couple minutes on. We'll all watch it together. The video is called "Play Partners Managing Stress Together," and the person that's going to be talking to us right now is another one of our clinical advisors, Christian Jacobs. He's a marriage and family therapist, and he's also a clinical advisor of ours here at Brother Be Well. So let's take a look at this short video. We'll come back and talk about it.
Hello everyone, Christian Jacobs here, Brother Be Well Clinical Advisor. Today I'll be talking to you about how to manage your stress with your partner together in a relationship. So there's many factors that can cause, couples to have stress and worry in a relationship. Some of them can be external, meaning that it can be outside of the relationship. Some of them can be internal, meaning that some of the relationship issues are causing the stress. And the best thing to know about is that every relationship has stress and has issues, right? So that's the first thing we have to understand is normalize the conditions of a relationship. And when you're bringing two people together, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be misunderstandings. There's going to be miscommunication. The key point to it is how you resolve those issues and how you work through those issues. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how to do some of these techniques here on how to manage stress together. So first, you want to sit down with each other and really share what some of those stressors are. They can be external, as I said before, and really listen to what some of the issues are. They may talk about work. Your partner may talk about a co-parenting situation that's stressing them out, or something in terms of maybe a pre-existing mental health condition or physical condition. So these are some things that you want to identify so you can get a level of empathy for that the other person. Because a lot of the times in an argument or conversations or disagreements, the challenge happens when there's a lack of understanding regarding what the other person is going through. So that goes into my next point, is really empathizing where they're coming from. So once you understand that, you want to try and empathize and have some feelings in terms of what they may be dealing with, especially if you're dealing with a condition that they have no control of, such as a physical or mental health condition. So in that area, you're able to find more research and you can find more tips in terms of how to deal with that specific physical condition or that mental health condition. And also when you, in your communication, as I talked about in other videos about identifying words to basically use in your conversation with your partner, you want to look and see if saying you doesn't work all the time, or you do this, you do that, try using I. So instead of saying, you're always doing this, or you never do that, you want to try and say, I feel a certain way when you tend to do this, or I sometimes do not like it when you say this to me, or I feel hurt when you do not listen to me. That way it takes the pressure and it takes the focus off of that person, and it's focusing on you in terms of your feelings and conditions, because a lot of the times an individual cannot really devalue or take away from what your feelings are. So try that technique as well, using that I versus the you part. And also you want to incorporate active listening. So you want to really try to actively listen to your partner, meaning that when they're talking, when they're going through a list of issues that they may be having, instead of just listening to find out when the next time you can speak, really active listen and try and take in what they're saying to you. And then once they're done talking, you come back to them and say, so what I heard you say was, and then you say what they would, paraphrase what they said. And that way that gives them an assurance that you're listening to them, and also that you understand what they said to you, because it's hard sometimes to understand what some people are saying to you when you're in a heated battle, when you're in a heated emotion. And once again, like I say about everything when it comes to couples, is have fun. You guys make sure you're doing the things that you enjoy together. You're going out and enjoying the nice weather. You're going out and watching movies together and going to concerts, and you're working through your issues, but at the same time, you're having fun. You're having your date nights. You go back to the things that were fun to you all when you first met. So these are some things that you want to do when you're really trying to manage that stress together, because it's a team effort. And that's something else you want to emphasize, that you guys are a team. So you don't want to fight against your teammate. So that's something else you want to emphasize when you're in that structure of a relationship. So once again, my name is Christian Jacobs, Brother Be Well Clinical Advisor, and please be on the lookout for more mental health videos coming to you soon. Thank you.
I am dying, Dr. C, to ask you a couple questions about that, because I wish Christian was here and the two of you could kind of share some perspectives there as marriage and family therapists. But talk to us a little bit more, expound a little bit on what Christian had to say about tips for modeling behavior in front of your children. Now, I've got a pointed one about that, but you may touch on what I'm going to ask you about. So let me ask the broader question. Can you give us some tips about how you can model behavior in children and then model a healthy relationship that are going to serve you well as parents?
Yeah. So first and foremost, that video was fantastic. I love it. Right. And it was great hearing from other marriage and family therapists when they talk, psychologists when they talk, and it also validates me what I'm doing with people I work with. I'm like, okay, good. We're all on the same page. So everything that was said in the video is so true for relationships, whether it's mom and dad, host and guest, right? However we're working it, it's important for us to have all these skills. But as far specifically though, when modeling behavior, the parental figures are not well, like we said earlier, then the kids aren't going to be well, and they're going to learn these unhealthy behaviors. So it's really important for parents to get on the same page. A majority of the clients that I work with, they come into me, I'm looking at what they're dealing with, and they lack the basic fundamentals on communication, listening, and expressing feelings. And here's the thing, I was there 15 years ago when I was first married, right? I didn't learn those from my parents. It was usually suck it up, it'll be fine, don't worry about it, or we don't talk about that. No, we don't want people to know our business. So I learned to suck it up. I didn't learn to express my feelings. So now I've learned that I have to make that conscious awareness to be a better listener. Because even right now, Michael, you're talking, I got notes going here, I got notes here, and I'm trying to listen to everything you're saying, but I'm listening with my motor running, where I'm trying to formulate an answer to the response. And generally in relationships, we do that because we get defensive or trying to defend our answer when we may feel confronted. And the kids will pick up on that. How many times have we told our kids when they're younger, even now as adults, and it's a really curt and short no with attitude behind it. And I'm like, oh, hey, hold on for a second. But these are behaviors that are modeled from the parents. They're reinforced through school. They're reinforced as adults. And it's cyclical. And things have to happen to break that habit. And it's awareness. So that's modeling behaviors, being aware of our own shortcomings, our own issues, seeking help, and not being afraid to ask for help. But we have to be vulnerable to do that, and that leaves us room to be hurt and feelings of judge, all this nasty stuff. But you break through that, and miracles can happen.
Question, Dr. Carlos, and it's a little late to make an impact on my own children. They're adults now, but I'll tell you what I tried to do, and I want to get your perspective for other parents. I grew up in a house where I didn't get to see, two parents were in that home, but I didn't get to see the resolution of conflict. So I saw the conflict. I saw the beginning of it and God knows I saw
Yeah.
the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to see one of the two of them apologize, or I didn't get to see them work it out. And so that set up some problems for me. So with my own kids, I decided to let them see the whole gamut of that. So if they're going to be caught in the car in the middle of this, I thought they deserved to see me apologize. Boy, those words were a little extreme, and I didn't mean to say that. And just fairly recently, one of my kids told me, Dad, and these words meant the world to me. She said, Dad, you broke the cycle in doing that, because she knows her grandparents. She said, you broke the cycle. We got to see how you can say something or do something and then apologize, and the person can forgive you and you can move on. Can you talk about the health or not of that strategy as you're raising kids? Let them see everything.
Yeah, it's very healthy for kids to see parents argue, right? But also it's dependent on the type of argument. Is this a conversation that kids just don't need to know about? Or is this just an everyday conflict? Like, what do you want to eat tonight? I don't know. What do you want to eat tonight? I don't want to eat that, right? And then even more slightly difficult conversations, but baseline conversations, or as I call them, rules of engagement, right? So when I work with parents, even in my own household, we've come up with a list of things that we definitely will not talk about in front of the kids. And I don't want to sit here and say it's perpetuating that cycle. Mentally, a 9-year-old and 13-year-old, emotionally, they're just not ready to hear certain things going on, right? But we also agree that once we come to resolve our emotions and thoughts about it, we're going to have that conversation in a way and using words that the kids can understand. So communication is important, modeling is important, and it's very healthy for kids to see parents argue and to have that resolution, as well too, to also understand that maybe sometimes a resolution right now can't happen. Because face facts, sometimes people aren't ready to forgive, people aren't ready to apologize yet, but those verbalizations should be had with the kids and let them know, hey, it's okay. I'm not ready to sit here and forgive because I'm hurt, and it's okay for me to feel hurt. But I will, and I'll revisit again in a few days, a week, whatever the case may be. Keep the kids involved the best they can and as emotionally involved as they can on their given age.
Yeah, appreciate it, Dr. C. Can you now walk us through, if you can, what a healthy, successful father-child relationship looks like? And I would imagine there are volumes written about this.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give you, 3 hours to talk about it, but can you give us a few sort of,
yeah.
Yeah, you know me, we could do it, Dr. Z. We could
I'll talk for 3 hours. You know how I can do that. But no, I hear you. It sounds like a very easy question to answer, but it's not, right? Because that differs from family to family and person to person, culture to culture. But basically, there are themes, right? Open relationships that are formed with respect. Open lines of communication the best they can be. Learning how to effectively express emotions. If you're angry and you want to break something, that's great, but whose stuff are you breaking? Are you breaking your own stuff? Are you breaking somebody else's stuff out in public? I mean, you punching holes in the wall, right? Those are all things that are fostered. So open lines of communication are very important. Respect is important. Role differentiation. Are we friends? Or is this a parent and son-daughter type relationship? All those things are important to foster a good relationship and to have good dynamics.
Tell me, you touched on something that I hadn't planned to ask you about, Dr. Carlos. I'm gonna, yeah. You said, is this a parent-child relationship or are we friends? And that, for me, for my own kids, that was a sticking point. My girls are 7 years apart, and I had the identical conversation with the two of them 7 years apart, almost word for word, where they came to me and said, you're being really hard on me, preteen, 13, 14. You're being really hard on me, and you're being so strict, and I just want you to be my friend. They both said that, and I don't think the younger one knew that the older one had said it. And I found myself answering 7 years later in the same way. I'm not your friend. That's not why I'm here. and hopefully we'll learn to coexist and we'll get along and we'll have our time together. But I'm not here to be your friend. I probably could have found a more sensitive, articulate way to say that in those moments. But what would you have to say about the parent who it's a sticking point for me? I see moms, well, not just moms. I see parents all the time, and they seem to be more interested in being the friend.
Friends,
the parent. What would you have to say about that?
Yeah, I love to play. I really do, right? I have no problem getting on the ground with my kids when they were small. I have no problem trying my best now to keep up with them at their age. I love it. I love to joke. I love to laugh. You know, just like we're having our conversation here. You know, it fosters laughter, fosters great relationship. It builds a lot of trust. However, on the back end, it really is a very, very fine gray line to find that balance between being a friend and being a parent. But those boundaries and those roles need to be solid in order to be effective. You can't push the goal line, if that makes sense. I'll use a sports term: keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. So even though my kids know that I love to sit here and roll around the dirt and the grass with them and go camping and not shower for 4 or 5 days, at the same time too, when dad says something and there's a lot of urgency in it, I'm being your dad. I'm not being your friend. We can still have fun, but your friends are at school, your friends aren't here. So, but it's tough because you're mean, you know, the crying, the tears, all those emotions and things that I get. Sometimes I bend. I shouldn't, right? But it's a learning experience. But I know at the end of the day, my job as a parent, for me, I'm only speaking for myself, is to raise my kids to be productive members of society, the best that I can, and hope that what I'm doing is the best for them.
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed out having fun, rolling around with them. I did all of that as well. In fact, I had family members. We talk about gender roles changing when we talk about fatherhood. And I had family members that said I was roughhousing a little too much with my girls. They were girls. And I used to wrestle with them and play with them and let them make my face up and dress me up and all of that. But there comes a time when, I had to make it clear to them that I am here to be your father and I'm trying to launch you into the world and be a successful human being. And that some of my decisions you're not going to like. And I think that's the struggle for parents, for fathers.
Definitely is. And I have a feeling it's going to be an ongoing struggle, right? Especially now as society has a more in your face type of mentality, social media, it's there in your face that we're going to want, and we all want to be liked.
Social media before I let you go?
Yeah.
I haven't asked you this either, dude. We just love to fly by the seat of our pants when I get with you. Just today, we're recording this, and the Surgeon General has released a report that says there's not enough data to suggest that social media is healthy for teenagers. And we're sitting here talking about fatherhood. What are your thoughts about parameters or boundaries that should or should not be placed on our children with regard to social media?
Yeah. Oh, I haven't read the study, right? So I can't comment too directly on that. As far as professional and personal experience, social media can be a great source of news. It can be a great outlet for therapeutically. It can be a great outlet for creativity, but as well too, it can be a detriment to a lot of things that are going on because I've personally been a part of therapeutically, professionally working with kids who are dealing with a lot of bullying and trauma in school, back in the day when I was going to school, if I was bullied, it was done during school hours. When I went home, it wasn't there, but now it's there constantly 24/7. And social media, I'll even go a little bit further and talk about electronic devices, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Babysitter, right? Unfortunately, I'm guilty of it, but I realize, oh, okay, no, we're out at a restaurant, no phones right now, no phones at the dinner table, and being aware and being mindful of what exactly we're doing. But it's a lot easier for us as busy people, as busy parents, to sit here and say, hey, take this, watch your TV shows, leave me alone for about 30 minutes, rather than actually finding out what's going on.
Yeah.
So once again, right, it's a tight walk. It's necessary evil. We need it, but how much of it do we need it? So I see a lot more issues with it with parents. Parents are on their phones in the same room. Kids, everyone's on the phone. It's tough to pull apart. Very complicated.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, you and I are in great company. The Surgeon General told a story, I just saw it an hour ago, about his 5-year-old coming to him and saying, hey, can I post this picture on Facebook? The only problem with that is the 5-year-old didn't even have Facebook. They hadn't even had a conversation about what the term on Facebook means. So your kids are out in the world, they're picking things up, and you got to figure out how and when to introduce them. I'm glad you mentioned technology, because that's a whole separate conversation. And we actually have another either podcast or video on brotherbewell.com about technology and the challenges there for all of us of all different ages. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Before I let you go, Dr. C, I'm aware of a few resources that I want to mention for everybody that's interested in being a better father, or if there's someone in your life who you believe could use some resources or might want some resources. There's a podcast called The Colors of Fathers. There are 2 organizations I want to tell you about. The Centers for Fathers and Families is one of those organizations, and the Native Dads Network is another of those organizations, all designed to help you have all the resources, the little toolkit that you need to continue to be a better father. Are you aware, before we take a look at a video, Dr. C, are you aware of any other resources that are out there for men of any age who want to be a better father and need a little help to get there?
The best resource that I've found are people who are open-minded, like-minded, and want to grow. It can be a resource within your own family. It can be a national network. It can be faith-based organizations. Off the top of my head, I don't have anything readily available, but I've learned that the more you share a little bit about yourself to other people within the same realm of people, dads, parents, you'll realize you're not alone. And with like-mindedness, you can start to build that support network, support system.
Really appreciate that perspective as a marriage and family therapist, Dr. Carlos. Let's take a look at a video before I got to let you go. I hate when it's time to do that, but let's take a look at this video. This one is a video. I don't even want to tell you what the title of it is. I might give part of it away. It's just a dad and his daughter. Check out this video. It's only about 3 minutes long, but it's a powerful 3 minutes. So take a look at this, and when we come back, we're going to talk about it a bit before we go.
Okay. Daddy is the sweetest daddy in the world. Daddy is the most handsome, the smartest, the most clever, the kindest. He is my Superman. Daddy wants me to do well at school. Daddy is just great, but he lies. He lies about having a job. He lies about having money. He lies that he is not tired. He lies that he is not hungry. He lies that we have everything. He lies about his happiness. He lies because of me.
I'm not crying.
I'm not. I am. I was gonna start this podcast with that video, Dr. Carlos, and the first time I watched it, I cried my eyes out when I saw that.
Yeah.
And I think it illustrates, parenting is hard. And I was that dad. I remember that McDonald's meal where I couldn't afford two burgers and 2 sets of fries, and I pretended I wasn't hungry. So that was the part I lost it. As we get ready to wrap up, I love the end of it too. Everything we're talking about is worth it. Children are worth the work. It's hard work. Fatherhood is hard work. Mothering is often called the hardest job in the world, and I can't contest that. I don't know. But if that's true, fatherhood is a close second. And those kids are worth the work. They're worth the checking out resources. I love what you had to say about social networks. Talk to other people. Bring in family members and friends who can supplement maybe the experience that your kids aren't having. Check out the podcast. Check out the Center for Families and Fathers and Families, the Native Dads Network. Google some resources. As long as you're going to use technology, use it to your advantage. Go to brotherbewell.com.
Yep. There you go.
Stuff here. Any other final tips, comments about the video, Dr. C, or final thoughts about
comments? Man, seriously, right? I sit here and say I'm not crying, but my eyes were watery. I can see myself as that dad jumping and laughing, and all of a sudden it hit me and it got me right here, right? Because I remember the struggles as a kid, and even we right now as a parent, we have our own set of struggles, right? And it's about trying. It goes back to the conversation we had earlier about problem solving, disagreements, and talking about things that the kids are age appropriate, and not talking about things that the kids aren't ready for, right? It's about trying to find that balance. But if I can leave you guys all with just a little something, right? Positivity. Be positive. Positive influences into our kids' lives, positive influences into our lives, and it'll trickle down, right? It's about breaking that cycle the best we can.
Beautiful, beautiful way. Breaking the cycle as best we can. And I certainly wouldn't even try to come up with something on that level. So I'm going to crib the video. It's worth it. Our kids are worth it. Dr. Carlos Martinez, Associate Marriage and Family Therapist with HearYou.org. So many of the videos and productions here at Brother Be Well wouldn't be possible without you and your colleagues at HearYou.org. So I want to thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And we'll talk to you very soon. Thanks a lot.
See you. Thank you.
I also want to thank our sponsor for this video, Blue Shield of California's BlueSky initiative. You can check them out and all the wonderful work they are doing for our youth and our families at this website, bluesky.blueshieldca.com. That's bluesky.blueshieldca.com. One more website, if you can handle it, brotherbewell.com. That's ours. We're a membership-supported service supporting the behavioral health needs of boys and men of color, African American, Latinx, Asian and Pacific Islander, Native and Indigenous, 13 and up, and the LGBTQIA+ brothers who inform and enhance those cultural communities. We are Brother Be Well. You can find all kinds of videos, podcasts, print pieces, resources, links to agencies on that website. We're a membership-supported service, but memberships are free, and so you can join for free right now at brotherbewell.com. While you're there, give us your email address, sign up for our blog, and when videos just like this one go live, you'll be the first to know about it. Take care of all that at brotherbewell.com. My name again, Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. It's a great honor of mine to be here in that capacity for you. I want to thank you for your time today and checking this video out and ask you to do just two things for me. Take great care of yourself and take great care of somebody else. Until next time, bye-bye.